Hi, so today's topic of discussion is GPS surveying. This is your second chapter in Unit 3 of the course that appears in your 6th semester in the subject Surveying 2. Okay, now what do you understand by GPS surveying? Now, fundamentally, GPS surveying is a global positioning system. GPS stands for Global Positioning System. The actual, if I try to give you the full name of this kind of navigational system, then it is NAVSTAR, okay, Navstar GPS, which stands for NAV stands for Navigational Satellite for Timing and Ranging. Okay, it's navigation satellite for timing and ranging GPS. Now this is a navigation system developed for military use by USA, okay, United States. It's satellite based and it's an all-weather radio navigation. So the first advantage of this system is it is all-weather. It doesn't get affected by cloud cover. It doesn't get affected by any type of climatic condition, right? And also that it is a radio system. Fine, and it's a satellite-based system. So the moment we are talking about satellite-based system, then we are actually not really concerned about the intervisibility, and a lot of the on-ground surveying limitations are surpassed by this kind of navigation system. Okay, so it's a satellite-based all-weather radio navigation and surveying system for determination of precise position and time in real time and in post-processing mode. Now, there are total 24 satellites which operate for this system. Okay, they are in orbits at around 20 to 26,000 kilometers altitude. They provide full coverage with signal from minimum 4 satellites. So unless there are at least 4 satellites which are sending you signals, it is not possible to navigate or to locate from the point at which you need to navigate or you need to survey, right? So you need signals from minimum 4 satellites, okay, at any place. So by receiving signals transmitted by minimum 4 satellites simultaneously, the observer can determine his geometric position, that is lat, long and height. Okay, coordinated universal time, UTC, that is abbreviated as, and velocity vectors for higher accuracy, economy, and in less time compared to any other surveying technique that is available. Its accuracy can go from few meters to few millimeters. That obviously depends on what type of device you are handling. If you are handling a handheld GPS device, then the accuracy can be in meters. If you are handling DGPS, then it can even be in few millimeters. So the takeaway is versatility, accuracy, cost efficiency, economy offered by the system makes GPS the most suitable system for many different applications in various fields. What are the primary advantages? If I try to summarize on what are the primary advantages, first is the accuracy. Okay, it's highly accurate. I have told you it can go even in millimeters, and it is all-weather system. The cloud cover or the visibility, the fog or the temperatures, moisture content, nothing affects this because the signals are sent from ground, received on the ground from satellites. Okay, so and intervisibility also is not affected. Why? Because you are, let's say you are having one station here, okay, and one station is here, another station is here, your satellite is here. Okay, so basically even though you cannot see, the stations are not intervisible, they are visible to the satellite. So that's how their positioning, their lat longs can be determined. Whereas if you try to adopt any other surveying system, let's say even if you are using total station or any other advanced TDM, distance measuring device, primary thing that is required is the intervisibility of the stations. And when you are doing a survey on a larger scale, that is when the geodesy, that is the curvature of the earth, comes into picture, and your distances are very large, let's say in the range of 10 to 12 kilometers, then what will happen? Geodesy comes into picture. So your line of sight will not be straight. It will be intercepted. Even when you are doing plane surveying, we all know our line of sight is actually not a straight line. It's slightly refracted. So if it's refracted like this, then there are errors which are going to come into picture, and especially when the distances are huge. Okay, so these are the limitations of surveying when it is carried out on ground, which are surpassed when you are using GPS or any satellite navigation system. Now the cost is high, but with the recent advancement, cost is also not a very huge limitation. Okay, and the difficulty in defining heights above datum level. Now what do you mean by this? Okay, this navigation system, satellite navigation system, what it actually gives you is horizontal and vertical control, right? It will tell you the position horizontally and vertically. Now the error that is seen in your horizontal positioning is plus or minus 1 millimeter, whereas here the error is plus or minus 5 millimeters. So vertically the chances of having errors are little more. However, if the requirement of your survey is not asking for extremely precise measurements for any kind of our construction project, this kind of error I believe is permissible. Okay, so what are the applications of this particular system? There are very wide range of applications. Okay, it's used, first of all I told you it's used in finding the location, lat longs and altitudes. Right? So because of that, it makes it possible to be used in multiple applications. Okay, if you want to do mapping, geodetic mapping, if you want to find out data, marine data, if you want to find out the seismic data, that is, you want to understand what is the plate movement. Okay, by any other form of surveying, it's very difficult to understand what is the movement of the plates all around the globe, but it is possible using GPS. Okay, there is a wide range of applications which I have listed down on the slides, but I will discuss what is actually more, in our area, more pertaining to civil engineering applications. So the first one is navigation. Okay. Now, what do you mean by navigation using GPS? Basically, it will be used, GPS will be used in marine as well as air navigation. Now, earlier, as I told you, this particular system was devised to help military use, but now it is even extended to civilian use. Now, again, in terms of navigation, it is also used for transportation management and exploration. Then structural monitoring, it is used in harbors and port management. Now in terms of harbor and port management, basically GPS will be used for docking the large ships. Okay, when you want to berth them or when you want to dock them in their right places, that time GPS systems are used. Again, even for airports and harbors, DGPS has been developed. And what is DGPS? Digital Global Positioning System. Now, this is a little advanced one. So, it has been documented that if your normal GPS is accurate around 10 meters, then DGPS will be accurate around 1 centimeter. So, this is a little higher evolved version, you can say. Okay. So that DGPS will be used in usually airports and harbors in order to have higher accuracies in landing or fixing the positions. So that time DGPS will be used. Okay. Then next is surveying. Obviously we are studying this in relation to our course, that is surveying. So how do you use this GPS in surveying? In surveying, it will be used to identify or understand the topography. Okay, it is used to find out the bed's sea levels. It's basically in hydrographic surveying. You might have studied what is hydrographic surveying. To understand what is the type of bed, what are the levels of beds. For all this, global positioning system has found its extensive use. Also, it will be used in staking out, right? That is setting out kind of works and all, it will be used. Then curvature and refraction corrections, right, which we have to apply in case of geodesy. Okay, for that also GPS can find its application. Okay, then it's used in studies to monitor glacial deformation, so movement of glaciers. Okay, and whatever are the changes in the soil profile that can be monitored using GPS. And plate tectonics, I just spoke about it some time back, the movement of all the different parts of the lithosphere, how are the land movements. Okay, that is not possible to monitor using any other method of surveying except for GPS. Okay, then it is used for precise mapping. Okay, I told you already, it gives you lat, longs and heights. So this is very useful when you want to develop mapping systems. Then the next is remote sensing. This will be used in methods like photography and aerial scanning. So what are these? Basically, these are methods wherein you are trying to get information from the images, from the photographs that you obtain from mostly the aerial modes, from the drones or from the aircrafts. Then it has also an application in geographical information system. Basically, it will be collecting the data for GIS. Okay. Now, what are the different segments of GPS? There are primarily 3 segments in GPS. Okay. First is the space segment, second is the control segment, and third is the user segment. Now, the space segment will be mainly comprising of satellites orbiting around the Earth. So, satellites continuously will transmit the dual frequency navigation signals consisting of information of satellite positions with the time lag and other data. Okay, so they will be continuously sending signals. What does control segment do? Control segment will upload this information in satellite memory. Okay, and what user segment do? User segment will receive all the navigational systems from at least 4 satellites. I'm again and again repeating because quite a few times it has been asked by your external examiners, and also how many minimum satellites are used. We require at least 4 satellites always to get the precise information, right, available at all the time. So simultaneously 4 satellites should be sending signals, okay, allowing users to simultaneously solve 4 independent range difference equations which will yield latitude, longitude and height and time. So basically you are finding 4 variables, so you require 4 signals. It's as simple as that. Now over here what we need to understand is that the signals will be sent from space segment to both these, control as well as user segment. Now the difference between control segment and user segment is user segment will not be able to send back the signals to space segment. Whereas control segment, it is to and fro. The information will be sent as well as received from the space segment to control segment. Whereas user segment is only in receiving mode. Okay, let's understand this in depth. So let's go first to the space segment. Space segment, I told you, comprises of the satellite and the orbit. Okay, there are 24 satellites which are used in GPS. In 12 are near circular orbit. So these orbits are nearly circular at around 20 to 26,000. There are multiple places this thing has been addressed as 20,000. Some places it has been addressed as 26,000 kilometers with an inclination of 55. Okay, 55 degrees. The constellation ensures that 4 satellites are in view from any point of the Earth at any time for 3D positioning and navigation on worldwide basis. The 3-axis controlled Earth pointing satellites continuously transmit navigation and system data comprising predicted satellite ephemeris. A predicted satellite ephemeris is basically a table which tells you what is the actual positioning and at what time where the celestial objects will be placed. then clock error, atomic clock error on dual frequency L1, L2 bands. But nowadays, it's obtained in L1, L2 and L5 band also. There is another L5 band also which is collecting the data. Now, in space segment, I told you there is satellites and there are orbits. So what are these orbits? These are kept around 26,000 kilometers above the center of mass of Earth. Okay? And satellites, I told you there are at least 4, but they are all equidistant. So if this horizontal line is showing the equator, orbits will be actually around at 55 degrees to equator. Okay? One satellite will visit a place 4 minutes lesser than 12 hours. Meaning, now let's say this is the satellite which is let's say right over Goa. Okay, right? It's at 12 o'clock you see it, in the afternoon you see it right over Goa. Now, after 12 hours it will come back over Goa, but not exactly 12 hours, 4 minutes lesser. Why? Because one, our usual day we call it of 24 hours. But a day for satellite is called, sidereal day. Now this is 23 hours 56 minutes, so 4 minutes less. So if I see it over Goa at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, at night I will not see exactly 12 o'clock, I will see it 4 minutes lesser. Okay, then the next segment is ground control segment, or it is called ground monitoring segment, or in many places it has been referred to as operational control segment also as OCS. Now, control segment of global positioning system is a network of ground stations that monitor the shape and velocity of satellites' orbits. Okay. The accuracy of GPS data depends on knowing the position of satellites at all the times. So just to give you all idea about how these satellites will rotate. Got this from Wikipedia. Now what you can see here, the ones which are in orange, these are the satellites, these orange ones. So the position on the ground is fixed. This is somewhere in North America, you can see. Okay. Now when North America, now Earth is rotating, at every time when it rotates, it's a different satellite which is looking over it. So sometimes there are 9 satellites which are visible at that point, sometimes 7, sometimes 6, sometimes 8, right? Because the satellites are continuously moving. Okay? At which point, which satellite will be able to send you the signal, that depends, right? So there are 24 satellites, and if you want signal, at a time minimum 4 have to be there. Otherwise you will not receive any signal. So now, again, the accuracy of GPS data depends on knowing the position of satellite systems. Okay, the orbits of satellites are sometimes disturbed by interplay of gravitational forces of Earth and Moon. The role of control segment is to estimate satellite space vehicle SV ephemerid. This I had told you just some time back. It's basically a table with all the celestial objects information and atomic clock behavior. Then to predict the position and clock drifts, to upload this data to SV. SV means satellite vehicles, okay. Now there are 2 master control stations. Now you look at this image, okay. In this image only one is shown, but all around the globe there are basically 2 master control stations, okay. Then 16 monitoring stations, okay. So monitoring stations, okay, the one in red and yellow, these are the master stations, huh? Okay, and the one in circles are basically monitoring stations. All may not be shown over here. And there are 12 ground antennas. Okay, so the ones which are in triangle are ground antenna. So the next segment is user segment. Now what does user segment consist of? It consists of a receiver. Okay, now this receiver will consist of an antenna, control display unit and a hardware receiver. Okay, and the second component is data processor. So basically this is a software component. Okay, the GPS receiver measures signals from 4 satellites and computes 3D position, velocity and system time. Okay, so what is the information that is actually being collected from the satellites are the time signals. Okay, based on the time, everything else gets computed. What is the position, how fast it is moving, where is it exactly located, all these things are collected. It's basically from time signals. The position of geocentric coordinates in basic reference coordinate system, corrections like delay due to ionospheric and tropospheric refraction clock errors are also computed and applied by the user equipment and processing software. Now here in the image you can actually see the flow chart. Okay, what exactly happens? Okay, so you have satellites. Okay, these satellites will be sending their signals to antenna GPS. Okay, then they will be sent to GPS receivers, and then eventually it will be computing the desired information. So maybe it will compute and give you the position, it will give you the velocity, or it will give you the time. When I say position, it will give you lat, long and altitudes. The next topic is GPS accuracy. Now, GPS accuracy will depend on the receiver operation and receiver's noise level, also on the selective availability of signals, whether it is on and off. Now, this selective availability, what does it mean is, as we know that GPS was developed by US military. Okay, for national security reasons, in certain places they had purposely degraded the signal, okay, signal accuracy. But eventually when GPS was extended to civil and commercial use also, this selective availability is off. So since 2000 it's been off. But earlier at certain places you would not receive signals properly. You will get a degraded signal. So based on the different types of errors, again this accuracy will vary. Okay, so now what are the different types of errors? A satellite clock error can give you around 1.5 to 3.6 meter of error in your location or positioning on the ground. Ephemeris error, that is orbital error, can be somewhere less than 1 meter. Ionosphere error is 5 to 7 meters. Troposphere delay is around 0.5 to 0.7 meter. Multipath is 0.6 to 1.5, and receiver's noise is 0.3 to 1.5. I'll quickly explain the meanings of all these terms. Now, what is a satellite clock error? As we know that all the calculations on positioning are depending on the satellite clock. Now this error is caused by satellite oscillator. If it is not synchronized with GPS, okay, then there will obviously be a difference in the positioning. Okay, your lat long heights can vary. Okay, when there is a orbital error, that is when you expect a position of orbit and the actual position of orbit is different. Okay, I mean the position of satellite in the orbit is different. Then the error that can occur is called ephemeris error. Then this troposphere ionosphere error. See, we all know that light, now in terms of, when I'm saying light signals, we are using radio signals, and radio is also a part of the light, the solar energy that we receive, a part of the electromagnetic spectrum. So now we all have studied when it passes through vacuum, the speed will remain constant. But we don't stay in vacuum. Our atmosphere will have multiple layers. So just as said, there will be troposphere and ionosphere, there will be ozone layer, there will be water vapor. So these things are bound to change the velocities, or they're going to alter the signals, and they will not behave as desired, obviously resulting in the inaccuracy. Then there is something called multipath error. Now what is multipath? Your signal is desired to move in a particular way. right, along a particular path, but it doesn't move along that path. So let's take for example, now this is your ground, okay, this is how, let's say you have kept your signal here, the receptor here, okay, and from satellite it is supposed to go like this. However, if it goes like this and bounces and comes back, this is just a schematic way of telling you. Or if it goes like this and bounces and comes back, then obviously the entire positioning or the data that you will be actually interpreting will be incorrect. The collected data will be incorrect, right? So this is about errors. Next, let's go to DGPS. Now what is DGPS? It's a differential global positioning system, right? Now what is the use of this differential global positioning system? I have already told you that if a normal GPS system is going to give you 10 meters of error, DGPS is expected to give in centimeters. That is because there are two receivers. One is stationary and one will be rotating around and taking the measurements, right? Now this error is reduced to 1/10, that is in centimeters, by reducing these typical types of errors, that is orbital errors, atmospheric distortion, satellite clock errors and receiver clock errors. If we take care of these particular errors, the final error that will be accumulated can be reduced in DGPS. Now basically this is the one which will be actually useful for us as surveying, because error of 10 meters and all is not really going to be useful for us in civil engineering applications, right? So now what actually, how this DGPS functions is, see, in your normal global positioning system, there is a single receiver which moves around. Over here, that single receiver is there, and apart from that there will be one stationary receiver, okay. This receiver is called a reference receiver, okay. The second one which roams around or wanders around is called a rover, okay. Now this stationary receiver is the one which is enhancing the accuracy, okay, because it keeps on calculating its positional error, okay, and it sends to this rover, okay. And this rover then ties all these errors or signals to the satellite measurements. So there is a correction going on happening while this rover is sending the signals, meaning already there is another person, another receiver, which is trying to calculate the inaccuracy because it is stationary, and there are already corrections which can be easily applied. So whatever are the measurements which are done by this rover, the moving satellite, okay, they will be now, it's kind of, reduced to this stationary reference, local reference. And that's why the final readings that you get, they will be more accurate, they will be better than the ones which are taken in GPS. Now, so far whatever I have covered is taken from these sources, references. One is from SK Google, and these are some web references. Apart from this, I'll be providing some more additional links. Kindly go through the contents of those additional links before you all appear for your final examination.